Hi everyone, so last time we talked about the phonemic chart and its two versions, the North American one and the British one. As we saw, there are at least two main versions to this language. Whether you're using the North American version or the British version or whichever other one you're using, you will find that there are some differences between them. And then you might be having some problems when you're trying to transcribe something because it's like, I thought it was this sound, but it was not that sound. Is this British? Is this North American? So I prepared a special short video showing you the four main differences between the British phonemic system and the North American phonemic system. Let's jump right to it now. So here we have both of them, the standard British English version and the standard North American version. Now let's talk about the differences. Difference number one, how to represent long vowels. So the first difference that pops up whenever you're trying to compare both charts is that in the British version, the long vowels are represented with colon, these two dots there, dois pontos. So you have here E, and by convention, in the North American version, we do not use it, okay? So you have the option, if you're using the British version, use the colon. If you're not, do not. Difference number two, central diphthongs. So whenever you look at these two charts here, another thing that you can notice is that there are more sounds in the British phonemic system and fewer sounds in the North American phonemic system. And this is basically because of diphthongs. Take a look. Whereas in the British version, we have 3 columns of diphthongs, in the North American version, we only have 2. So basically what happens is that in the first column here, we have what we call central diphthongs. This is because you have 2 vowels and the last vowel is always A, which is a central vowel. Whereas in the other 2 columns here, you have either diphthongs that end in E or U, which are closing sounds. Whenever you're making them, your mouth is sort of closing. So closing diphthongs exist in North American English, but not central diphthongs. Let's see what happens. So in British English, when you have a word like this is how it sounds.
Here.
And this is how you represent it. So this diphthong does not exist in North American English. What we have is
Here.
So take a look. Before we had a diphthong. Now the schwa sound dies and we add the r sound here. So
Here.
versus
Here.
Alright. Same thing for if you have this word here, this is how it sounds in British English.
Cure.
And this is how you represent it. Whereas in North American English,
Cure.
and this is how you represent it. Okay? Last word. We have this word here, and in British English,
There.
and represent like this, whereas in North American English, you would say,
There.
so no diphthong, just one vowel remaining plus the R sound. Difference number 3, the sound O in words like
Or.
in British English,
On.
in North American English, in which it doesn't exist. So if you face the phonemic chart, in the British version, this sound exists. This sound is something in between O and A, so it's something like O. Whereas in North American English, it simply does not exist. So basically, in some words like
Stop.
in British English, we have this sound, whereas in North American English, you will either use the A version or the O version. It depends on where you're from in the United States or Canada. Difference number 4, the rhotic schwa. I mean, the schwas. Okay, now if you don't remember what the schwa is, it is basically the most common sound in English, and many times it is referred as the laziest sound we can produce. It comes from Hebrew, then some German linguists adopted it, and basically it means emptiness. When they came up with this name, something that is not very strong or preeminent. This is what the schwa is. If you take a look at the phonemic chart, the British phonemic chart, you have 3 central sounds here. three central sounds that are all considered different versions of the schwa sound. All of these ones here. Now, what happens in the North American version? We have the three of them as well here. What's the difference between them? Well, the difference is that in the long schwa, in the North American version, it is rhotic. That means you pronounce it So this is Now the difference between these two sounds here is very subtle. Let's see if you can guess. For example, in a word like this, about, this is the schwa sound I would use to represent it. Now, in a word like this, custom, this is the sound I would use to represent it. And finally, in a word like furniture, this is how I would represent it, using this sound here, the third one. Now, when should I use each of them? This is a schwa sound that happens whenever it is not stressed. So take a look. Where is the stress in the word about? Out. So the schwa sound comes before, it is not stressed. This is the convention symbol I'm going to use. Now, in this case here, I have the schwa sound, and it is stressed somehow in the word. It is the focus of the word. So, custom. Whenever the schwa is stressed, you use up, for example. Now, in this third case here, you have the schwa, and it is stressed, but it's also long. So you have furniture. So it happens in a stressed syllable, plus it's long. Now, if that was happening in British English, you wouldn't have the R sound. It would be something like furniture. Okay, so this is, broadly speaking, the main difference between the schwas. Okay, now many linguists would come here and say, no, there are many more differences. This is not only it. Are you talking about phonetics? Are you talking about phonology? There are other traits that you have not mentioned. Yeah, I know, right? This is not phonetics and phonology right now. I'm just trying to make you understand it in a broad sense. So, basically, the long schwa in the British version is non-rhotic, whereas in the American version, it is rhotic. Now, something very curious is that there are many ways to represent sounds, right? The long rhotic schwa sometimes is represented differently depending on which dictionary you're using. So sometimes you will find this phonemic symbol here, and sometimes you will find this one. Okay? And so these are So these are the five main differences. The four main differences between the British phonemic system and the North American phonemic system. Thank you.